affect other species and the world that we live in, and himself, by perfecting the ability to think. First original thought. See, there used to be a time in history when man was just like all the other animals. He didn't think. He didn't know good from evil. He existed and lived by instinct just like the other animals did. If you want to believe the record that we can look back and see written in stone. Okay? If you want to believe that there were creatures that ultimately became this thinking man that you see standing up here in front of you and sitting out there amongst you, didn't have this ability. Now, if you doubt that, read Genesis in the Bible and you'll see that it's confirmed there. Wasn't there a time when Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden? They were not to think. They did not know good from evil. They were just there to take care of the garden. Is that correct? So this concept and the biblical concept agree. Man just enjoyed what God had put there and sort of took care of the garden. Any dentist will tell you that our mouth was not made for eating meat. So ancient man most probably ate vegetables and nuts and things like that. Roots. Doesn't mean that I'm telling you to become a vegetarian, because I'm not. You see, I really believe in freedom. I believe you should eat whatever you feel like eating. That's your business. But that's known to people who study these things as the age of innocence. Something happened that brought man out of that state, and if you're talking from a biblical reference, out of the Garden of Eden and into the world. He wasn't innocent anymore. He understood that he was naked, and that his partner was naked. He could think. He could look around. He knew when something was good and when it was bad, just as we all do here. When somebody comes up to me and says, well, how do we know which is the right way to go? I know that person is setting me up to justify his bad deeds, and I won't do it. You always know. We always know which is the right way and which is the bad way. The bad way sometimes feels better, so we may choose that way and justify it by rationalization in order to make ourselves feel better about the bad that we did. In the mystery schools, they refer to this mystical time of coming out of the age of innocence as the Luciferian philosophy. I've tried to illuminate you with this for years on my radio broadcast. In the Bible or in the church, they talk about the fall of man. Same thing. There's only one difference between the Luciferian philosophy and the fall of man, is that those who talk about the fall of man believe in God, whether or not they believe in a Savior. They believe in God. The ones who believe in the Luciferian philosophy do not. Now here's how that works. In the Bible, we're told that Eve was tempted by Satan to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God had commanded Adam and Eve not to eat of the fruit of that tree. If you do, ye will surely die. Isn't that the commandment? Lucifer, through his agent Satan, on the other hand, told Eve, God lied to you. He's holding back the fact that you too can become God. But first you have to eat of the fruit of this tree. And if you do, you will surely not die, but shall become as gods. Isn't that true? So, from the religious aspect, we see that as the fall of man because man disobeyed God. We see that as the subjugation of the woman beneath man, where she had originally been the partner. Now she is subjugated beneath man because she was the agent of man's downfall. Is that correct? Now, I'm not talking right or wrong. I'm not trying to insult anybody in here. I'm just telling you what we're taught so that we all understand what we're talking about, because that's most important. If you understand something differently than what I'm trying to impart to you up here, and we don't have the same definition, we're not going to understand each other, are we? The mysteries, on the other hand, look at this in a different light. Here's their story. It's a metaphor. They don't believe that there ever was a God, or that there ever is a God, aside from man himself. And man has not reached that state yet, but can, and this is what they teach in the lodges, that if you perfect yourself as the temple of the God within and become Christed, you've all heard this in the New Age movement, you too can become God. In her movie, running on the beach, spinning around, I am God. Go ask her early in the morning when she just wakes up and goes and sits in front of the mirror and looks at her aging face and tries to cover it up with makeup if she's God. She may tell you a different story about that time. Around noon, she might be feeling better and become God again. But this is the reality of the human condition. We'd all love to be gods, wouldn't we? My question to Shirley MacLaine at one time was, please, Shirley, could you make me a universe? She sort of looked at me with this hurt look on her face as she confronted her mortality and realized that she was not God because she could not make me a universe. She couldn't even make herself a universe. She can't even make herself look young again. She's having a hard time paying some of her debts. God doesn't have that problem, does he? And in her case, she. Here's the way they look at it. Here's their metaphor for the end of innocence. Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, cruel, and vindictive God. Until Lucifer, through his agent Satan, set man free from this garden by giving him the gift of intellect. Through the use of intellect, man will conquer the earth, will conquer nature, and will himself become God. It's taught in every Masonic temple in this land. Every secret brotherhood, every secret society, every mystical temple, every occult organization teaches the Luciferian philosophy. They do not believe in Lucifer. They do not believe in any entity called a devil, and they do not believe in God. It is a mistake for you to assume that they do. They are atheists in the strictest sense of the word. They are humanists. That's their religion. At the highest level, their goal is to create a world in which the adepts, the 1,000 points of light, working behind the veil to create the culmination of the great plan, can realize the ultimate happiness for mankind. That's why they don't oppose pornography. That's why they don't oppose certain crimes. That's why they say you should not be put in jail for the rest of your life for murder or anything else. There should be no death penalty, because it was a learning experience. And having gone through that learning experience, you're a better person now. This is what they teach. They believe punishment for these crimes is nothing more than vengeful retribution, which is wrong in their eyes. So these are really the two philosophies that we have competing with each other in the world today. Who brought man the gift of fire?
We're speaking here to Bill Cooper, and what would you classify yourself as, just in a couple words or less?
Well, I don't know what you mean by that.
Like, who are you? Like, if somebody said, I was listening to CITR and I heard Bill Cooper, he's,
I'm an average, ordinary person just like anybody else, not any smarter, not any dumber, who's really seriously concerned about the future of our freedom.
Okay. Is it my understanding, from what I've understood from seeing your videotapes, is it true that the U.S. Army possesses spaceships and will eventually fake an alien invasion in which will unite the world under the leadership of Freemasons?
That's one of the scenarios.
So how did the U.S. Army, who seems to be bungling a lot of stuff, how did they get a hold of alien craft, and how long have we had contact with them?
Well, first place, it's not the U.S. Army. It's secret agencies within the United States government that are under control of the secret societies. These things are being flown at a super-secret test site called Groom Dry Lake, or Area 51 in the state of Nevada. We have them on videotape, extensive footage, both at night and daylight. They are what people normally call UFOs, flying saucers. Some of them are circular-shaped, that are owned and operated by humans. They're either remote-controlled or have human pilots. We're not exactly sure which. But they're not extraterrestrial at all. They're the results of a secret technology that were originally developed by the Germans during World War II, but not perfected to the state of being used as a weapons platform.
How did we get a hold of the technology? Like, did we meet aliens?
No, we took it from the Germans.
We took it from the Germans. Okay, how did the aliens, have anybody in the U.S. government ever met any aliens?
We don't know if there are any aliens at all.
Well, wasn't there, okay, an alien craft that crashed that you refer back to? A word alien craft ever crashed, landed?
We don't know. We know that the government has set up a scenario where there is evidence that seems to point that something crashed, which has been interpreted as an extraterrestrial craft with dead extraterrestrial bodies. But these could have been monkeys with their ears and tail cut off and surgical intervention done to their eyes, and who knows what it was.
Okay, how did the Germans get this technology then?
They developed it with their science.
So, okay, so you're saying, okay, well, just moving something a bit closer to home here,
Let me put it this way for you so that you'll understand it a little better. Governments cannot exist unless the people feel threatened. The primary job of a government is to give the people a modicum of safety. The United States government was formed by a union of the states for their mutual benefit and protection. Okay? Now, to have a one-world government and tear down all the national boundaries, you have to instill the people of the world with enough fear that they're willing to give up what they used to be loyal to and join with something that's new that they don't know what it's going to be. What better way to do that than if the Earth were attacked or invaded by some other species from some other planet, whether real or imagined?
Okay, what about abductions? What do you,
if you start looking into the actual research and development of brainwashing and mind control techniques by the United States, Great Britain, Canada, the Soviet Union, and others, and if you'll look at the mind control experiments and the actual lobotomies that were performed on people in hospitals in Canada, you'll see that this alien abduction thing is probably the most sophisticated and successful mind control operation ever conducted in the history of the world, and it's designed to make us believe that we're being threatened by some other species from some other planet so that they can have their one-world government.
But didn't you say in one of your papers that there was an agreement that aliens were allowed to pluck people from Earth?
No. You see, this is what happens. People don't read what I write. What I said was, this is what I saw in documents when I was in naval intelligence.
So you're saying there are no UFOs out there, probably?
No, that's not what I said. UFOs are real. I can prove that at least some of them are owned and operated by humans here on this Earth.
Okay, they're humans, but there's no alien ones.
We don't know.
So you don't know?
I don't know if aliens exist or not. But I will tell you this, in 1917, John Dewey said this in 1917. What better way to unite all humanity in a one-world government than if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet?
But wasn't E.T. based on a true story?
If what I saw in government documents when I was in naval intelligence is true, then yes. If not, it's just another part of the conditioning of our collective consciousness to accept the reality of something that doesn't exist.
And we've been on the moon since 1948 as well.
Yeah, what I'm trying to tell you is nobody really knows, but whatever the truth about UFOs is, it's being used to make us give up our freedoms and join in a one-world totalitarian socialist state, and that's what we better be careful of.
If people want some proof, where can they delve deeper besides from your stuff?
Right after World War II, A.V. Rowe built a veritable city in northwest Canada to work on top-secret aviation developments, one of which was the flying disc, which is called flying saucers or UFOs.
Which city?
Research A.V. Rowe. Find their secret test sites, and you'll be able to film these things flying in Canada just like I can film them flying here.
I saw a documentary on it, and they said it was a failed craft. Well, I guess according to you, it wasn't failed.
That was to convince the public that we humans don't have the technology necessary to build one of those things, which was a disinformation program called Project Snowbird.
To tell you the truth, when I first heard about what you're doing, I thought you were saying, aliens crashed, we stole their craft, and we have the technology, and people are allowed to be plucked from the Earth. But as you've told me now, that's wrong, right?
My paper, the initial press release that I did was called Operation Majority, and it was a list of things that I could remember seeing pertaining to UFOs in top-secret documents while I was in naval intelligence. The second document that I released was called The Secret Government, which, if what I had seen in those documents was true, and if what I'd been able to research was true, and that others had researched, and documents released under the FOIA were true, then it was, in fact, the history as close as anybody's ever been able to write the history of extraterrestrial visitation to this Earth. If not, it's what they want us to believe. And at the beginning of that, I had a hypothesis statement saying that this is a hypothesis based upon this, this, and this, which has been taken off. And at the end, I had 5 conclusions. Number 5 was the fact that this could be the greatest hoax in the history of the world, designed to create an alien threat that does not exist to bring about a one-world government.
Now, I don't want to regress, but
yeah,
did you attempt to contact Oliver Stone before he went into pre-production for the movie JFK?
That's correct. Attempted over and over again, hundreds of times, to contact him, not only myself, but intermediaries and other people. He absolutely refused to acknowledge our existence or even speak to us. And when you watch his film, you'll see that what he's doing is blaming everything on our government. What he's saying, in effect, is constitutional government doesn't work, and that's a lie, in order to get us to be dissatisfied so that we'll accept the New World Order when it comes.
So do you think that the name Oliver Stone is like a pseudonym, and that Stone has to do with the actual basic teachings of the Freemason religion, what you were talking about a couple nights ago?
Absolutely, and he must be a member because he shows in his film that he knows who really killed Kennedy, and in the way that he does it, he's actually laughing at the rest of us.
Yeah.
When Garrison and Prouty are sitting on the park bench in Washington, D.C., and they're talking about why, and he says, that's the question, isn't it? Why?
So then
who had the power? Who had the opportunity? Who had this? Who had that? And then the camera moves back, and they become real tiny in the picture. In fact, you can barely see them, and there's one dominating scene. There's one dominating part of that picture, and that is the Washington Monument, which is the obelisk, the phallus, the lost word of Freemasonry, the light.
How about the Bermuda Triangle? Are you into that at all?
No. Listen, let me make one thing perfectly clear here. I'm not into mysterious things or witchcraft or disappearing ships or anything like that. My only purpose, and the only reason I even began to do any of this, is because I believe that sometime in the near future we're all in danger of losing the affluence that we worked hard for. We're in danger of losing our personal freedoms and becoming somebody's slave in the New World Order. And that's the only thing I care about. That's the only thing I'm fighting, and that's the only reason I'm doing any of this.
Okay, who are the bad guys? Who are the bad guys just right off the bat? The Masons?
Well, nobody's really a bad guy. You got to understand that these guys aren't doing this because they're evil or they think that they're bad. They're doing it because they actually believe that it's the best for all humanity. But their assumption is wrong. Anything that has to be manipulated, anything that has to be brought about by lies and deceit is inherently wrong in its premise to begin with.
Now, thanks, Mr. Cooper. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
And keep on rocking in a free world.
Thank you, and God bless you and your listeners.